Hello, everyone. I think we're going to get started. Welcome to everyone in the room, and we've got a lot of people online as well, so hello to our online audience. My name is Yona Nestel. I am the Inclusive Quality Education Lead for Plan International, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this session right at the end of the day, so thanks for sticking with us. And our session today is about gender transformative education and emergencies and how we are together, young people, decision makers, civil society, together for education in emergencies. And if you want to engage with us online, please do use the hashtag gender transformative education. So this side event will highlight girls, young women, and also boys and young men as powerful agents of change. We will center their voices today, we will center their experience, and we will make sure that their work, their recommendations and voices are heard, and that their leadership is really profiled in advancing gender transformative education in emergencies. And we will also create a space for them to put forward recommendations and calls to action to donor agencies, which are here today as well, who will then respond and share their commitments and how we can work together to advance gender transformative education in emergencies. So we don't have much time today, and I want to make sure we give these amazing young activists as much time as possible to share their work. And I'd like to first invite and call up Wendy and Natalie, who are two Youth for EIE activists. Wendy is Venezuelan, but she's now living in Ecuador, and Natalie is Ecuadorian. And both Wendy and Natalie are leaders in the Por Ser Niña movement, which in English translates to Because I Am a Girl movement, which promotes female leadership and gender equality. So Wendy and Natalie, the floor is yours.
Feminism is that place where the theory becomes a collective hug and you stop being alone. Noelia, you're leader of the Because I Am a Girl movement. Hello everyone, I am Natalie.
And I am Wendy, and we are part of the Global Youth Panel for Education in Emergency and the Because I Am Girl movement in Ecuador.
First of all, it's an honor to be here. I remember 11 years ago, I had the opportunity to participate in leadership programs of Plan International Ecuador. Thanks to these experiences, I realized the injustices and inequalities that mainly affect girls in my country. And I decided to become an activist for all rights to change this reality. And that is how I am here today.
As for myself, I'm from Caracas, Venezuela, and in 2017, I migrated to Ecuador because of the political and social conflicts. Migration is a word that feels very painful and also full of opportunities. I am here representing my second home for those who could not be here.
Before starting, please raise your hand if you know where Ecuador is. How many people know about Ecuador? Well, I tell. Ecuador is a small country located in Latin America with 17 million people. We have 4 regions: the Pacific Coast, the Amazon, the Andes, and the Galapagos Islands. Also, we have 14 nationalities and 18 indigenous people. Other question, please raise your hand if you knew that Latin America is the most unequal continent in the world. Okay, in fact, inequality is reaching new extremes. Significant increases in inequality of income and wealth are leading to larger gaps between rich and poor men and women. And I think the quality education can help us close these gaps, and it can act as an equalizer within society. But according to UNESCO, the education in Latin America has not advanced since 2013, and around 70% of students do not reach the basic knowledge in reading and math abilities to be considered literate.
COVID-19 emergency forced the schools to close, and education was moved to students' homes. In consequence, many countries face the challenge to move to online learning. But only 36% of homes have internet access, and in rural areas, it decreases to 16%. 4.6 million boys and girls were affected by closing of schools in Ecuador. Girls are the most affected by the crisis, since families prefer boys to be educated instead of girls due to the scarcity of resources and gender stereotypes. In this situation, education ceases to be a right and becomes a privilege. There are families that must choose between educating their children and feeding them. In addition, during emergencies, violence also increases among families, especially gender-based violence against girls and young women. Therefore, in the Because I Am Girl movement and the Global Youth Panel, we state that violence is also an emergency. Violence, inequality, and poverty take away our right to a quality education, our right to have life projects, and leave us in a bigger vulnerable situation for the future.
Being a woman or a girl in countries like Ecuador is a constant struggle through survival. And that is why we have decided to call our movement Because I Am a Girl. The movement has become a safe space to build a new way to overcome these struggles through girls and young women empowerment and collective leadership. We are more than 600 female leaders and men who seek that all girls, adolescents, and young women exercise their rights in a life free of violence.
How do we do it? Our works in digital activism through social networks and with young advocates inside our different communities, both fundamental tools for our collective work. This had opened an opportunity for excluded communities to be seen and heard. In Ecuador, we have created an initiative called Youth Ambassador for Education, where we have given virtual workshops about education in emergency, gender transformative education, and innovation for projects designed by youth to more than 70 young leaders from diverse communities.
We have made murals inside the educational institutions. Also, we have built a manifesto that has allowed us to collect the needs and demands that girls, adolescents, and young people face in the educational systems. As you can see on your desk, you will find a brochure with hundreds of girls' voices who talk about their right to a quality education, the need of more financing for education in crisis situations, and the inclusion of a quality comprehensive sex education.
If you get in the QR code, you will see what happens when you believe in young women and their ideas. We wanted to demonstrate that with the necessary tools, young people are capable of transforming education, our lives through gender equality, diversity, inclusion, sustainability, and social justice.
We know that all governments and and educational systems from Latin America are not prepared to deal with emergency situations. And we want you to know that education in Latin America, even before the pandemic, was already in crisis. The Latin America children, especially girls, are in the need of the world's attention. We need more financing for our education and for youth-led innovation. On behalf of the girls and you women in Ecuador and our region, I tell you not to forget about us. Please Don't forget the girls and young women living in Latin America. Thank you.
Wow. I feel very emotional myself. Thank you so much for sharing your powerful work. Just need to take a moment there because that was just incredible. Really, really proud of you guys. Thank you for sharing. Whew, okay, Hawa. It's a hard act to follow, but let me invite you up and introduce you. Next, we'll be hearing from Hawa Abdi, a youth activist from She Leads Kakuma and Transform Education, hosted by Angai. Hawa was born in the Marafa refugee camp after her parents and her family fled the Somalian war. And she's now studying for a bachelor's degree in media and journalism in Turkey. So that's amazing. And let me invite you up to share your work. Give her a round of applause.
Hi, hello everyone. I prefer standing when I'm talking to such great people. So let me start with a short story. I remember when I was about 12, not 12, like 7 to 6 years old, my mom used to take my 3 sibling sisters. I have 7 sisters. I'm the 8th born and I'm the last born of the girls. So my mom used to take my sisters to school, to a tuition place where they were teaching English and mathematics. So every night we used to go between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So she will hold my hand, we will go to the school, to the center. It was a small center. So she will drop them, and when we were coming back at night, I will always tell her, why don't I stay with them? I want to stay. And she'll be like, no. So in my head, I thought maybe my mom, she doesn't have money. But she was telling me, no, you are still young. You are only 6, 7 years old. You know, they are 9, 10, 11. You can sit with them. But I'll be like, no, it's fine. I just want to sit. I just want to have the pen and the book and just write something. She will say, no, one day you will become a doctor, you will become an engineer, and you will do great. And I'll tell her, no, I want to become a teacher, or I want to become a journalist. She will say, why will you choose such? I say, no, you don't know. But anyway, my journey in pursuing in education was far from straightforward. All my elder sisters dropped out before completing high school due to financial. My mom used to move from one refugee camp to another, from Marafa to Otanga to Dadaab, then to Kakuma. Then we later settled in the central part of Kenya, which is Naivasha. But I was determined to make it to finish line because I wanted to make my mother proud. She will always tell me, you will make it. I have 8 daughters and you are the youngest. I know you are going to make it. I don't care about the rest, but you will make it. One day you have to. And I'll say, okay. But more importantly, whenever I do, I think about the million girls across the world who face numerous barriers to have access to quality education. Not only the Somali girls, not only the refugee girls who live in Kakuma, Dadaab, but all other girls or every person who needs to access quality education, they have the right. So I'm standing here because I want to be the voice of the people who could not be here today so that they can be heard. There is a problem back home where we are coming from, all around the world. Every child deserves access to quality education. Today, I use my story to bring to light the reality of seeking education as a girl in humanitarian and crisis context. My mother moved from Somalia to Kenya in 1992. She has been a refugee since 1992 till today. I also aim to encourage young refugee girls to build their hope for a better future and amplify their voices. Probably 99% of them, like, I want to be the voice of those young girls. They don't know me. They don't know I exist. They don't have to know me. They don't have to know I exist, but I want them to have the education that I once had. My mother made sure I came to Turkey, I get education. I applied for scholarships and I get partially scholarship. It wasn't fully funded, but a close friend of my mom said, you know what? I think I can help her. If she did good, so I think she can go to Turkey and she can do her bachelor's degree in Turkey. So she was funding, she was helping me for all my 4 years. Thank you so much, wherever you are. As a refugee, he went to school in the refugee camp. I have personally experienced the low quality education that refugees received in the camps because of overcrowding, lack of professional teachers, lack of sexual and reproductive health education, and the mental health of those students. Mental health really matters in where we come from. but we don't talk about it. We don't mention mental health. It's like a stereotype thing. You cannot say you have stress. You cannot say you have depression. No, go sleep, wake up, and then go. You have to do. You can't mention in that household. Yesterday, I think I met one of my colleagues she was from Afghanistan, and she was telling us how those young girls in Afghan, they are going to school under the water, like they can't go to school like of us, like they can't go to school and have education. So what they have to do is they hide to go and read and write. That is not right. We are living in the same world, we are breathing the same air, but someone is reading and writing under the water. They can't be seen. So I looked at her and I said, yeah, you have a problem. I really appreciate, and we are sorry that you are facing that, but remember, the grass is not green on the other side. We are not facing what you are facing today. We have schools, we can go, we have no group of people telling us, no, don't go to school, we don't have that. But what we don't have, a conducive learning place, we don't have that. We don't have enough textbooks. We don't have sanitary pads for the young girls. We don't have that. So on the other side of the world, the grass is not always greener when it comes to education. What you are facing may be different what I am facing, but we are on the same journey to have a better quality education for everybody. In December 2020, I traveled back to Kakuma in refugee camp with my colleague and a good friend, Nihal Deng. He started She Leads Kakuma, which was a 6-month-long empowerment, advocacy, mentorship program, and college preparatory program for adolescent girls in Kakuma refugee camp. During our stay in Kakuma, we organized consultation with young adolescent girls enrolled in secondary schools across the camp as members of Transform Education. So Transform Education is incubated and hosted by Ongai, which is a coalition of a young feminist-led network working to transform education for gender equality through advocacy, capacity, and solidarity growth. I'm really thankful to Transform Education and Ongai what they have done. I have learned a lot from them, a lot. I didn't know much about feminists. I didn't have much education knowledge, but I am so proud to be one of them. The consultation showed how young feminist and adolescent girls are hoping and demanding to receive an education that is transformative and inclusive. What we do with She Leads Kakuma is we have mentors and we have mentorships. The girls from the camp, we match them with girls from Canada, America, these European countries, so that they can learn from each other, so that they can get help if they need an essay writing, if they college preparatory help, they get help from each other. They communicate so that the one who is not in the camp or who is not where we are from, they can learn what is happening back then home. We led capacity of strengthening workshops to fill the leadership and advocacy gaps identified by each adolescent girls. Intervention like this allows young feminists and refugees not to only be part of the consultative process, but actually be the one leading programs with one of the adolescent girls. Moreover, the text provided a safe space for all the adolescents who participated to have a brief discussion about their life experience, their hopes and demands of gender transformative education in emergencies. If I am educated today, I go back home, I go back everywhere who needs support and help, we just help them. Imagine educating and helping 12 girls. Okay, the last one. This is why it is so important that we talk about refugees' education, especially for girls and gender-diverse refugees. But the ability to go to school and seek education is so important that we need young leaders like us to be included in the table, to be making decisions. They say 99% is solving the problem. The 1% remaining is what you should do. We already solved the problem. We came, we told you, we said, okay, this is what we have. We solved the 99% of the problem. While leaders, you only have 1%, what we are asking for. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Howard. Really powerful. And I wish we had all the time in the world to listen to you, and we need to hear more from you. So please keep on speaking and telling your stories. Our next speaker is Niall Deng. Many of you probably know him. He's a youth activist and a member of the Refugee Education Committee, an initiator of the Refugee Youth Peace Ambassador Project, and She Leads Kakuma to help young people build better futures. He's a South Sudanese refugee, a writer, a youth advocate, a community activist, an organizer, and just an amazing human being. So without further ado, Niall, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yona. It's so beautiful to sit in a panel with such powerful women leaders. And I think, one thing I want to do, I think we live in a very territorial, in a world that is very unjust, and it's a, hostile territory to so many people. And as someone who was born as a male and identifies as a male, I just want to acknowledge the privilege that come with that. I can never pretend that I understand the injustice and the suffering that women and girls go through all across the world, but I can only listen and learn and become a better ally. And I just want to say a word of gratitude to young leaders like Hawa, Wendy, Ashley and Jonah and Yona and Lily. I've had opportunities to listen from you, to learn from you, and to become a better ally. So thank you so much. Before I speak, I just want to acknowledge Damien Baraka, who could not be with us today because of the visa injustice that young refugees and displaced youth advocates go through. I talk about that a lot because I've had my fair share of visa troubles. I do not have a passport. I use a refugee travel document to apply for visas. And I remember there was a time I was applying for a visa to go to the UN General Assembly in New York, and I walked to the US Embassy in Ottawa. I gave them my refugee travel document, and the officer asked me, "Where's your passport?" I was like, "I don't have a passport." They say, "Why?" I told them I was living in a refugee camp, and I came to Canada for school. And then they told me, "You're not qualified for a visa." They did not even ask me, "What are you going to do in the US? Where are your documents?" The interview ends like in a few seconds. Damien could not be with us, and I had an opportunity to talk with him a couple of days ago. He's an incredible young man and activist who is doing a lot of amazing work in a Desaleka refugee camp in Malawi. Damien is just 19 years old. He started his activism when he was 14. Currently is part of Plan International Youth for EIE Education Coalition that is doing a lot of amazing work, and is also part of the Angai Global Feminist Coalition as well, which I'm part of, and which I'm very grateful to be part of as well. And he's also a member of Youth Advisory Panel in Malawi and mentor for Children Parliament in Malawi as well. So Damien, does work on education, on gender equality. He's a great intersectional feminist activist, and I just want to acknowledge him in the work he does in Malawi. He was actually supposed to speak on the panel, but I'm so grateful that I could, at least, highlight his work and all the incredible things he does. Yeah. I talk a lot about the visa issues. I'll not talk about that again, but I just want to share briefly about my work that we does at Shilit Kakum with Hawa. Hawa, talk a lot about that, and I'll just share a few things. I started my activism when I was in my, high school. I was in first year of high school, and I saw that kids that I go to classroom with were, traumatized by the brutal images of war they witnessed while fleeing their country. And I wanted to bring them to a space where they can, heal from their trauma, where they can, have hope, where they can be happy together, where they can play together. And I set up the Refugee Peace Ambassadors to bring young people together. We used to have mentorship session, we have storytelling sessions, we have game and sport activities, we have leadership workshop. But while working on Refugee Peace Ambassadors for 2 or 3 years, I realized that we often have this session that we organize and young girls and women do not show up. So I went into the community, I speak with young women and girls, and I tried to understand what was the issue that was preventing them from coming up to my, to the program that we're having. And that is how, the idea of Refugee Peace Shilit Kakuma came about, because we realized that there were so many barriers that young women and girls were facing in the camp that limit them from participating in educational and leadership opportunities, that limit them, from taking part in initiative in communities. And we start applying an intersectional lens to all the programming we're running at Refugee Peace Ambassadors. But we also felt that there's a need to streamline our work. And I reached out to Howard and I was like, I have this idea. What do you think? And Howard was like, yeah, let's do this. So we traveled back to Kakuma refugee camp. Set up Shilit Kakum. We started with a small group of 35 young women and girls that we took through leadership training, through workshop for 6 months. And then we later connect each and every one of them with a mentor from a university back in Canada that support them for another 6 months, through a virtual mentorship program. They work together with the mentors on different things. If they're passionate about journalism, their mentors support them with that. If they're passionate about, becoming a leader in their community, their mentors support them with that. If they want to set up their own business, their mentors support them with that. If they want to apply for college, their mentors support them with, application essays and all of that. But we also felt that there was need to involve the community. So we started working very closely with community leaders, with religious leaders, because, gender norms and harmful cultural practices, do not just exist in the school, but they also exist in the community. So I feel there's need to go out there and rally people so that, we all work together toward, ensuring that young women and girls are not left behind. And when I think about, things like gender stereotype and gender norms, I think last year the UN, there were very powerful words that were shared by AB, the former CEO of Lego Foundation. And she said that if we can have men going to school, graduating from classroom, and still think that women cannot occupy some position of power, and then there's a problem with our education. We know very well that the education crisis is gendered, but also what we need to do is that we need to ensure we apply a gender lens when planning education, be it in emergencies, even in countries that are developed. We need to do that. And then, over the last 1 year, so now I've run the program for 1 year, we've been able to engage more than 1,000 people in Kakuma, from community leaders who work together very closely with the community, leaders in the camp. We work closely with the, organization in the camp, and we also do a lot of advocacy on education, especially the need to ensure that gender transformative education, sexual reproduction, health, and right are incorporated into the education curriculum in the camp. We have sessions that we do at the schools, and we've been, able to, engage people, and I see that this need to continue doing this in order to bring, young women and girls not just at the table, but also give them the tools and the resources they need to become advocates themselves for their own right and for their own challenges that face them, and that is what we do at She Leads Kakuma. So we try to empower young women and girls in their communities to become advocates for their own right, to succeed, to have a chance at education, and to be able to achieve their dreams. And then just to break away from She Leads Kakuma, I'll talk briefly about the Refugee Education Council, which I'm part of. So for those who don't know, the Refugee Education Council advised Canada on the Together for Learning campaign, and the council is made up of 15 incredible young people from across the world who have lived experience in forced displacement in different parts of the world. And when we released the Youth Manifesto, we decided to put a very clear focus on gender equality. So that was one of the key pillars of the Youth Manifesto, because we saw that, as we all know, the education crisis is gendered, and we cannot say that we will commit to gender transformative education if we cannot incorporate a gender lens and intersectional lens into education planning, into education policies, into education program at different level. And then with that, we came up with the anthology that also, bring together voices of young people, from across the world. And we highlight so many different stories of young people who are leading change, fighting for gender equality in different parts of the world. And just to close up, I think, it's very important for, for global education decision makers to ensure that, they apply gender lens, an intersectional lens when planning education, when designing education program, when designing policies, because we cannot leave behind young women and girls. And as well as, I think Canada, which I'm very proud, to have, work with very closely in advocating for these issues. I think they have, done a great work with initiatives such as, the Child Boy Education Initiative, as well as, the International Feminist Assistance Policy. But I think these need to do more to ensure that, Canada do not just lead the way, but also encourage other countries to ensure they have, international feminist assistance policy, but also apply gender lens in planning education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Niall, and thanks to all of you, to all the young leaders here today, sharing your work, sharing your recommendations, and sharing your message. And now, government leaders, time for you to respond and to give us your thoughts on what you heard. And let me invite Dr. Heike Kuhn first, who's the head of division for education at the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development for Germany, to maybe share some thoughts, reflections of what you heard from Natalie and Wendy, which was super powerful. So Heike, over to you.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor and being here with you. And it's so wonderful listening to you, listening to your voices, because I would just like to share some personal words. By profession, I'm a lawyer. I believe in rights, in human rights, in what is in the papers. And the lawyers, we always get sad because people do not behave like it is. But it's your human right to education. And you were so powerful in your statement, Wendy and Natalie. And it's good to see you again, Natalie. I will come. We already met in the margins of the Transforming Education Summit in New York at the UNGAI meeting. So what are we doing? But also to Hava and to Niall. So it's so good that you're claiming your rights. I'm most impressed by the manifesto, I want to say, but I will now tell a little bit from the government side, what are we doing? Starting here on the gender side, I said this before today in a meeting where I was Canada sitting next to me, and the UK was not only our intervention, but it's a long movement that we have seen, and the UK said it today. It's a high return on investment if you invest in girls. So leaders have already understood that we have to invest in girls, powerful girls and young people, and listen to their voices. We have seen this in different G7 presidencies in Germany. What we did concretely when we had the G7 presidency in 2021, we had an initiative, Support Her Education, SHE initiative, we called it. And in a way, this complements from the government side what you are doing in your manifesto for quality education. Also, in the big funds we are investing in, like the Global Partnership for Education, and in ECW with Global Partnership for Education, there we established a special mechanism, a dedicated funding mechanism for girls' education for on 100 million euro, even more in US dollar at that time at least. But so we are really putting girls' rights, girls' necessities really in front. You know, we meet there, Kira, in these meetings, and we're pushing the gender issue. And here, when ECW, when the new strategic plan was made up, we were really pushing for gender issues, for climate, all what we heard also today, but also for young people. I think the impressive thing about this conference is now that you sit here and ministers have to listen to you. So this is good. And on the gender transformative, we are on our way, and I ask you to give us your support. We have a new gender transformative network with UNGAI and Tara Ganguly. We also spoke. So we want with the support of young feminist leadership in education. You are the most powerful voices. You know what you are speaking about. With my previous work, I did also persons with disabilities, human rights, and they have a wonderful saying. They say nothing about us without us. But it's the same for you, young people. So I apply it everywhere. You are my VIPs. You come to us to the table, and we check what we can do. And we need your knowledge. And I learned in my country, working on these youth issues, that you are the problem solvers. You have good ideas. We have this movement also in Germany, and I just, from my personal experience, in a developed country story, it was not easy. Getting elderly people listen to young people is always the same. Oh, how dare you to speak to me, and what can you know? But you have solutions you bring to us. I learned you don't have to pay for PricewaterhouseCoopers if you just put some, this is what I learned personally. You just put some young people in the room, you get a solution on some local issues. I will stop here and on this question and let others speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heike. Excellent. So our next responder is Sarah Hunt, who's the Policy Director in the Development Corporation and Africa Division of the Irish Department of Foreign Affairs, Irish Aid. Sarah, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Yona, and thank you, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today, and particularly Wendy, Natalie, Hawa, and Nihal. Just really energizing to hear from you. I think it's been a real feature of these last 2 days, just to have all of these voices in the room, to shake us out of our complacency, out of the same conversations that maybe we've been having for a long time on these issues, and to really make us stop and think, this is your future that we're talking about, and we need to do more. Just a little bit, I suppose, first in terms of what Ireland is doing on this. Education is a priority for Ireland, as it is for my colleagues here. We have a focus on education in emergencies and protracted crises, and our International Development Cooperation Programme is centred around reaching the furthest behind first. And we want to make sure that education does not get left behind when crises hit. We have a particularly strong focus on girls' education in all our development programming and eliminating barriers to girls achieving 12 years of high quality and inclusive education. We recognise and have learnt that in order to progress towards gender equality, we must go beyond inclusion. We must take a gender transformative approach to transforming education systems by also addressing the root causes of gender gaps in educations. We need to make the case for investing in girls at all points. We also know that this work cannot stop in emergencies and that these are often the settings that present the greatest challenges to gender equality and to girls' access to education. Our partners and our own national journey on gender equality in Ireland has shown that meaningful progress has often come from powerful social movements, and often these are led by young people. And we know that girls and young feminist activists can drive gender equality globally and in their own communities. And one of the best ways that donors like us can support this is providing funding in a way that is supportive and sustainable. And for example, Ireland is proud to support a dedicated girls fund in partnership with Plan and Purposeful that provides grants to girl leaders and their initiatives in ways that are accessible and accountable. And we're also proud supporters of UNESCO's Our Rights, Our Lives, Our Future programme, which is the biggest comprehensive sexuality education programme in Africa. And this is a new thing for us and we're very proud of it. But listening to you, it does, and over the last day and a half, really thinking, are we doing enough? And where really should we concentrate our efforts? And we are providing funding, and I think we've come a long way with Education Cannot Wait. And Ireland, I think, along with our colleagues here, we're really working to keep the issue of gender equality to the fore in the plans there. But what can we do differently? What can we do better? Innovation is extremely important, and it's really interesting how to see the work that you and Nihal are doing in the camps. And I think this is the type of thing we need to hear more about it. We need to be able to bring that evidence to make this case even more strongly. We need to listen and learn to young people, I think, as Heike has already said, and very much going beyond issues of access, but also looking at quality. And I heard loud and clear the challenge also of the whole child, mental health challenge that's there. I think this is extremely important. And it's very clear to me from all of your interventions that crises are exactly when we need to hold the line and perhaps even double down on our efforts on the barriers to girls' access to education and to gender equality, because this is exactly when things can start to go into reverse. So we need to sustain the advocacy, show this evidence and support youth leadership and listen to local needs and voices. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Excellent. I love that, Sarah, that we need to double down. It's an opportunity to double down when there's a crisis, actually. So thanks for that. And then our final respondent, Marcia Cahoon, the Director of Global Affairs Canada. She's responsible for education, child protection, and the prevention of harmful practices. So Marcia, the floor is yours to respond to these amazing young people.
Yeah, amazing young people. Yeah, thank you for sharing, all four of you, the very powerful messages. I think there's widespread agreement at this conference and elsewhere that we need to listen to the voices of youth with lived experience as displaced people and refugees. But I would argue that we need to go further than listening. We need to hear, and we need to take action, and we need to be accountable and responsible to you, not just listen. We need to go much further than listening. In order to hear young people like Damien, who's not here, they need to be in the room and at the table. And we know that there are visa challenges and that those visa challenges make it impossible for some people to have voice. So we need to work with our colleagues in immigration departments who issue visas. We need to use digital communication to engage. And I know that's not the same as being there in person. And we need to go to where people are. We need to go. They don't need to come to Geneva. We need to go to Kakuma. And we need to listen to what you have to say, and we need to be there and understand and try to appreciate. As for gender transformative EIE programming, as was mentioned, Canada has a feminist international assistance policy that places women and girls in all their dimensions at the heart of our development efforts. We know that intersectional feminist policies can transform unequal power relationships, can protect human rights, and can help to ensure that women and girls can participate equally in decisions that affect them and their communities. So some of the initiatives that we've undertaken have been mentioned. The G7 was mentioned in 2018. There was a Charlevoix Declaration on Quality Education for Girls and Adolescent Girls that others have built on and have done some great work. The Together for Learning campaign, the Refugee Education Council. EIE in emergencies is a priority for us, and the girl child and the adolescent girl within that is a priority for us. We've also been involved in initiatives such as the Global Brief for practitioners on gender transformative education that was released in Dubai at the Rewired Summit alongside UNGAI, UNICEF, and PLAN and others. These efforts help to highlight the needs and press for efforts to close the gap for girls' access to education in crisis settings. They help. Last March, Neil mentioned this, that we convened a youth-led Together for Learning Summit, which aimed to amplify the voices of youth with lived experiences. Neil mentioned that at that summit, there was a youth manifesto that was released, and Neil mentioned that gender equality was one of the 5 calls to action. I'd like to share the other 4, if I may. It's your call. It's your manifesto, though, so is it all right if I anyway just on behalf of no, I'm not on behalf of, but the other components in the youth manifesto, was a call on global leaders to champion inclusion, mental health and psychosocial support, digital learning, accountability, and gender equality. It's a very powerful manifesto. We put it at the front of all of our briefing books when we are sending briefing books up. There were some significant commitments from many governments, over 50 governments, to that manifesto, as well as many important organizations doing important work to that manifesto. You need to hold us accountable for that. Through partnerships with ECW and UNGAI, for example, we're striving to action these recommendations, but we need to be held accountable. We're also working directly with internally displaced and refugee-led organizations in, for example, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Mali, Niger, South Sudan, and Uganda. And we need to continuously ask ourselves, and importantly ask youth, whether we are indeed responding to their calls for action. We need to continuously strengthen our monitoring and evaluation systems, and our data has to drive our decisions. And I just want to respond, Natalie, you asked, do we believe in young girls? Yes, right? We believe, all of us. We put up our hand. We all believe in young girls and the power of young girls, and your powerful voices have touched us, all 4 of you. So thank you for your voices. Please continue to hold us accountable. We should be held accountable by you. These programs are for you. So nothing about you without you. I would agree entirely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marcia. I'm going to invite one of our partner organizations. You see, many people have been involved in putting the session together, and I think I didn't mention all of them in the beginning, but thank you to all the partners. And one of the partners is the Global Campaign for Education in Germany, and I'd like to invite Malte Fau to give us some closing reflections and remarks. So, Malte.
Okay, thank you, Jona. Hello, everyone. My name is Malte Pfau. I'm working for Kindernothilfe, and I'm the spokesperson for the German coalition from the Global Campaign for Education. One sentence which I will definitely take back tonight is that violence is also an emergency, Wendy said. I think this is really a strong quote. And thank you, Hava, for sharing your personal story with us. You said that you think many not even maybe know that you are standing up for their rights, but I can say that they are damn lucky to have such a strong voice like yours to speak up for them. And also thank you that you shared, Neil, the report from the practice working with refugees. I think this whole panel was another great example of the whole conference, actually, of the importance of meaningful youth participation to better understand the complex issues like implementing gender responsive education in emergencies. And like Heike Kuhn said, nothing about us without us. I think, yeah, the ball is in your field, and we as the German coalition will be definitely a watchdog that this really happens. Yeah, I will do it very short because we are actually over time already. So emergencies provide a window of opportunity to advocate for improved gender responsive policies from the beginning into the future. And the best way to promote gender responsive education in emergency is to strengthen institutional partnerships between governments, between civil society, grassroots, youth and women's organizations, and of course, governments through ministries. And to the end, I think we have added another small building block today with this panel to this. And we as a Global Campaign Germany and also with Plan International would like to continue this exchange from today with Plan and engage other youth networks like the Youth Action Group from the Global Campaign for Education, or for example, the BMZ Youth Advisory Council. And we would like to invite you to another online meeting with this group in 2 or 3 months to discuss the next steps. And yeah, thank you again for all the partners who helped to set up this panel. Thank you, yeah, Plan International for really organizing it, and the BMZ. And I wish you all, yeah, safe journey back, and thanks a lot. And big applause to our panelists.